Okay, great. Well, thanks for joining, everyone. This session is kind of just a chance for people who were part of the first LinkedIn Learning cohort from the Women TMRG to get together and just talk through a few discussion questions about the content that we were learning about in the LinkedIn Learning courses. And then at the end, just to share some feedback about the LinkedIn Learning cohort structure, and kind of discuss what the next iteration of these cohorts look like. So I put a couple discussion questions into the agenda, and I took them so the LinkedIn Learning cohort courses, as you all know, have a combination of LinkedIn Learning courses and GitLab issues that have discussion questions. And so I kind of mashed some questions together and put together a few different topics for us to just share and talk through, maybe share any learnings from the course, or if the questions just bring something up for you about leadership and what it's like to be a woman or someone identifies as a woman at GitLab. And yeah, so I put 3 questions in there, and I want to save just the last 5 minutes or so to talk through a little bit of feedback. So if we don't get to all 3 questions, that's totally fine. But I guess I'll just kick it off. I'll read the first question, and then if you want to chime in, you can chime in. So the first one was from the shorter LinkedIn Learning cohort. So we had 2 cohorts, one that had 3 courses and one that had 10 or 11 courses, I think. And this one was part of the Leading Yourself course from the shorter cohort. And so it's multi-part, but how do you recognize yourself? Are there any new ways to recognize yourself or the work that you do after you took this course? And then also, do you keep a success log? And if you do, if you use the success log to recognize yourself, what advice do you have for others who don't have it, or people who struggle to identify their successes? So, question about how do you celebrate your success?
Yeah, thank you, Samantha. I'm happy to go first to kick it off. So I think for me, I try to look at my resume and my LinkedIn profile twice a year, something like that, because I just want to keep both really up to date for my own memory's sake, and just put wins on there and have things be described correctly so that I just don't forget things. So I think it's really important to recognize yourself, and I think I could be doing a much better job. If I don't keep a success log, I only look back every 6 months or something. So I think a success log is a really, really great idea. And the last thing I'll say is when I hit my 2-year mark at GitLab, I posted a LinkedIn, my first LinkedIn post, which was really daunting for me, where I just talked about how good I felt and listing some wins, because I just felt I had grown a lot at GitLab, and it made me feel good, and I got a lot of support. And I just think everybody should do that, whenever they hit a milestone, because no one else is going to do it for you necessarily. And everybody is working so hard in their career, in their life, and it's just really important to just be so loving to yourself and kind to yourself. Thank you.
I started a success log after watching one of the learning things. I don't remember which one. I don't know what to do with it yet. I also do the same thing, which is I like to go back and keep my resume up to date, because if you stay somewhere for 4 or 5 years and you're like, well, what did I do? So I think that's really good advice. And I'm still building up the success log because I've only been doing it for a little bit. So I'm hopeful that I can come back and use it at some point, maybe during like reviews or something when I'm trying to talk about how awesome I am when I talk to my manager. I did tell my manager I did it, and they were really supportive of it too and said it was a good idea. So, but mine's like really basic. I think somebody shared like a really not like complex one, but one that had like more details. And it's not that I'm lazy, but when there's like a high barrier of like complexity to documenting things, I don't do them. So I just been posting links from like GitLab and screenshots in it occasionally. So hopefully that works out for me.
I still have success log on my to-do list. Probably I wait for like a success to log in it to start it, but chiming to what Terry said, I think it will be super helpful during process of feedback or for a promotion document. So I definitely have this in my mind to do it finally.
I do like what you just said for a promotion document. I actually block out like 15 minutes on my calendar every Friday to update. I guess it's a success log. I haven't necessarily thought about it as a success log before, but I like drop links into it. Like you just said, Terry, it's like not very complex. It's just links. But it is super helpful because I do it in the format that GitLab promotion docs are done. So like from the promotion docs I've seen, they're broken up by values. And so I drop things I've been working on into like each value bucket. And then, you know, my goal is one day to just be like, hey, Josh, look at all of this. Like, you know, how can we start discussions for a promotion? And then it's like done in the format it's going to be needed to. And it's a really cool record of things that I've done in the last 6 months or year or whatever.
Thank you, Samantha, for sharing that, because for the longest, it has been a terrible, terrible challenge to me. Every time my manager asked me for examples of the practice of some values, because I feel like I practice that every day. However, finding an example is really difficult. So what I did was in this career growth path, I did create a document to focus on some things of process, some technical things for business. And so, and every time I kind of like collaborate with someone or write a comment or something I'm really proud of, because you know that feeling when something is, you're really proud of this comment, I try to drop the link. So I think we all kind of like have built the same artifact. Thank you for sharing, because I do think that there will be value in creating something that is more periodic, weekly or something to add to that.
Sorry about that. Hello everyone. Sorry, my shaker was doing some noises in the background. But regarding rewards, I know that we've been talking about, you know, keeping the success log and keeping yourself and maybe your manager like up to date on your wins. But do we do like rewards? Like, I know for me it's not something like I do, maybe because I really don't have like a big goal of, you know, do something by the end of the year or something like that. And then I guess it's kind of hard to recognize when I'm gonna be doing or when I'm gonna be getting a reward. So I'm curious if anyone with the help of the curses or maybe before, I don't know, if you do something as a reward for your, I don't know, whatever achievement you've made. I guess it could be small, but I'm still working on that, recognizing small wins, tying it back into the I Am Remarkable workshop. It's really not that easy yet. So yeah, just curious about that and building up on that question.
I don't do that. I feel like I just treat myself for other reasons and not necessarily link them to things at work, if I'm understanding like the rewards thing. But I think it's an interesting idea to have like a goal that you set and say, okay, I would think about maybe if there was like a certification or something that you could like say there's a set date that I want to do this by, or get this like, even maybe like completing one of these courses, because we're doing this kind of like get together now. Like this is like a small thing, but also you can be like, oh, I completed it by the day. And then give yourself something nice, like a pedicure or like some other activity that normally maybe you wouldn't do. I don't know. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, that's actually great of you to acknowledge that, Terry, because we're doing something, right? Like we're doing this, we're recognizing that we finished something, but even then, it's not like super prominent that you did something. Like for me, it didn't even occur to me that this could be a good time to to practice the reward. But I guess this goal also serves as that as well. So we're here, we're learning.
Okay, I'm gonna push us onto this next question, which maybe feels like a little deeper than the first one. So if you're not comfortable sharing, that's fine. But from the second longer learning cohort, one of the courses in that progression was called Leadership Strategies for Women. And in that course, they talked about imposter syndrome. And so the question that I put in here from one of the discussion issues is, have you ever felt imposter syndrome before? And like, what are signs for you that you start to notice when the feelings of imposter syndrome start to come on? And then maybe if you have like strategies that you use in the moment to break that cycle of imposter syndrome, what are some strategies that you use?
So I can start. So yeah, I have like imposter syndrome almost constantly, maybe because I don't have classical computer science training, and because I have different degree and I started my career after a boot camp. So I definitely have a very strong imposter syndrome, especially in GitLab, where there's full of such smart people. And here I am after psychology. So I have imposter syndrome all the time. And what recently really helped me, I attended psychological workshops about self-compassion. It's this psychological theory about like 3 things you can do to be more self-compassionate towards, compassionate towards yourself. And this whole approach that was explained to us was really helpful. I can link some books that the coach that was like conducting the workshop, she was recommending for that, because that was it was like mostly focused on like working with your inner critic voice in your head and all those materials. And although like because it was like 6 weeks thing, it really helped me with like reframe this voice in my head. And it still it's like to disappear. I just have a little bit of different approach, and it really it was really a relief for me.
I'll jump in and share, because hearing you talk about like the stories in your head and like reframing those stories, I just took the training for crucial conversations. Like it was actually the train the trainer training, so like that I and JC and I can like teach back to other GitLab team members. But one of the like strategies that they teach in the course is called Master Your Stories, and they teach it in a way that's like, you know, focusing on the story that you're telling yourself in your head before you're having a conversation with somebody else. But to me, I actually use it like for myself all the time, because I am like a master of making up these absolutely ridiculous scenarios in my head when something is happening and convincing myself that it's true. And it makes me anxious, it makes me upset, and it like kicks this imposter syndrome in. I'll like, you know, make one small mistake or not do something that I feel super confident about, and then I just make up this story about losing my job in my head, and it takes over. And so that it's just making me think about this master my stories strategy, and the way that they teach it is like focusing on what's fact and what's not fact, and only focusing on just the facts, because the things that aren't facts are things that you're interpreting or that you're making up, or that you know, maybe they are facts but you don't have proof that they're facts yet. And so I've been trying to just like, for me it works, I just have to slow down and like actually think through, okay, you know, what just triggered me feeling this way, what actually happened, and what part of what's going through my head didn't happen or isn't happening that I'm just like afraid is going to happen. So yeah, hearing that reframing, I would love to hear more about that training that you took, because it sounds like it's like a deep dive into this master my stories idea. So
We can like schedule a coffee chat. I can like tell you about this, like,
oh, yeah.
because for me the whole thing was great. There was one most like powerful exercise. It was like based on like because a lot of people like say when you have inner critic you should like, I don't know, laugh it off, but it's not always the best idea. And what this coach told us was like to like focus on what kind of needs the inner critic wants to take care of. For example, if your inner critic is like, oh, you're like, for example, you're dressing in a way that, you know, no one is dressing, you're too extravagant, and this is your inner critic voice. Maybe what inner critic wants, this part of you wants, is like he just taking care of the need to like to be a part of like some community, and the inner critic voice is just part of it that's afraid of, you know, being different. So that's like, it was like so like stripping it to like the most basic needs that we have, and it was very powerful.
Yeah, super interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Gosa.
I think one of the also the crucial parts about overcoming imposter syndrome is to actually try to build a healthy response to failure. Instead of seeing failure like the end of the world, recognizing that failure, it's a step closer to success anyways. And I think the company culture and values influence a lot how you perceive failure, right? And if you're set for success, it is only natural that you're gonna make mistakes. I think one of the things that helped me is recognizing that I don't have to be perfect, because sometimes you see a conversation in between two individuals, and recognizing that like everybody's brilliant around, and you see this conversation and you don't understand what they're talking about, makes you feel like you know nothing. So you need to focus on the good things, like you do know things. You cannot know everything, otherwise you'll be probably the own CEO of some other company. You need to kind of like be compassionate with yourself, and like Terry said, celebrate the good things you do actually add and know. So I think one of the main keywords here is compassion, and the other is trust, because when you trust the environment you work for, you feel like you can fail, and that's fine.
I love the idea of being okay with failing, because I've like led some talks in the Women Who Code group that's like local to my area about like talking about failures, because people only really talk about like successes and problems they've solved, but you don't see like the epic blow-ups that like all people go through at their jobs. And so I thought it was important to like have like a round table or something where we're like, okay, talk about a point where you had a complete failure in something that you worked on and like how it affected you and how you got out of it. And I mean, I have had some epic things that were like broke stuff at work, deleted things, like huge amounts of things, like data that was bad, you know, but it's like still here, still have a job, and you know, it's not like the end of the world, but like seeing that like vulnerability in other people, I think can be helpful in overcoming like the life questioning, why did I take this job? I don't know what I'm doing moments that like people go through.
And I also feel that it's natural that when you master something, you simplify it, like you see it easy. There is a point when you're used to something and your brains just process that by default. And then when you add in that area, you feel like doing nothing really, like this is effortless at this point. And you stop perceiving the actual, you know, value behind that addition. And it is difficult to take on compliment, like, thank you for all your hard work in this section, but you know, that section was not that hard a work, like something else that you didn't master. And I think like it helps when there is padding, like when there is recognition from on site, your perspective, like by a manager or a friend, coworker. And when we in merge request kind of like praise in between the tags that we add, I think the praise tags are some of the ones that we need to incorporate more to let the people know they did a great job here, or you appreciated what they did in some other way. Because when it's pointing out mistakes, it's really easy to write a comment. But then when you write code, for instance, or any other kind of like document, you're really proud about some areas sometimes. And it is really nice that someone realizes that took you, I don't know, maybe time, maybe it was an idea that you came with. And so I think helping others, extending that courtesy of recognizing value in others, it's a healthy, not policy, I don't really know what word to use, but it's a healthy habit that we can extend all the time.
Great, thanks for sharing. I want to just recognize that we're at time. One thing that was just coming up for me that I thought was kind of funny is like the first question, we talk a lot about successes, and the second we talk a lot about failures. And so maybe we need like a failure log too. Like maybe there's value in like connecting how our failures lead into those successes, you know, just something.
I think failure log is like so in our brains.
Right.
Yeah, connecting to what Lena said. Sorry, Samantha. Connecting to what Lena said, it's actually something that I think I've seen, like not seeing something as hard or as complicated as it may be for someone else. It really means that you have some skills there, that you have mastered something there. So it's kind of, yeah, it's not that hard for me, but seeing that it may be hard for someone else means that I have a skill there that I can share and also be proud of. So it's kind of the balancing of the failure and also the success. Yeah, love that.
Great. Well, thank you all for attending this call and having this conversation. I think it's cool to get together and kind of talk about these big ideas from the courses. Down at the bottom of the second page in the agenda, there's a link that goes to an issue where our subcommittee for professional member development would like to gather some feedback. I'll post it in the Slack channels too, but if you have any feedback about this session or the LinkedIn Learning cohorts in general about how we can increase participation and make them better, I think our group would really appreciate it. We're hoping to do another LinkedIn Learning cohort starting up. I think we're going to start it at the beginning of June, and we're going to do the same courses. So if you didn't finish one of the courses, you could keep learning, or if you finished one of them and you want to do the other one, you could swap and do the courses in the other one. They're different courses. So, but yeah, any feedback you have in that issue would be great. Amparo or Cassiana, do you have anything to add about feedback and next iterations of this?
No, I mean, I just look forward to the results from this issue when we get feedback. I don't know if it's anonymous, Samantha.
Do you mean
when people? Oh, I'm sorry, it's an issue. I'm sorry, I thought it was a form, but you're right, it's an issue. Okay, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, if people would like to provide anonymous feedback, I can like whip together a Google form too to put, so that there's that option. But and then I'm gonna pull some reports too to see some data. I won't like publish people's names of data, but just see like how many people finished the courses in the cohorts to get an idea of you know, what engagement looked like and how we can keep getting more people involved. So cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate you all and good to see you.
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone. Bye.